Hey Squeeze students, we are halfway through the Algebra 2 unit number 1, still talking about key features of functions, and we're going to move on to intercepts and then positive and negative intervals. And once again, you're going to need 4 graphs for your notes, so make sure you have those. We're going to use those for the examples. All right, so first thing, this is just your everyday XY axis. So first thing I want you to do is just sketch that in your notes. Label this one with an X and this one with a Y. And then when we're talking intercepts, okay, anytime your graph crosses the Y axis, that's where you're going to have a Y intercept. And anytime your graph crosses the X axis, that's where you're going to have an X-intercept. So you're just looking for, if you had a point on there, that would be an X-intercept, or if your graph kind of came through and touched it, that's where you would have an X-intercept. And then same with the Y-axis. Okay, so I think we're probably fairly comfortable with intercepts. Positive and negative intervals, maybe not so much. So positive intervals, that is where what I would say when we're above water. So I'm gonna get a bluish highlighter. Okay, and we're gonna pretend that this is water down here, blue water, and however you wanna do this in your notes. But all of this is underwater, and all of that is considered negative land. And if you're above the x-axis, you're up here, you're above water, this is where you are in positive land. Okay, so those are the big things. Really, the only things we need to worry about today are intercepts, and then are you below water or above water? Below is negative, above is positive. Okay, so now you need your graph. Your first graph, it's this one. This is a parabola, it's a quadratic function. And the first thing we're going to talk about are our x-intercepts. We'll just do these all in the same order each time. So your x-intercept or intercepts, sometimes you have two. And in this case, we do have two. We have one x-intercept right here and one x-intercept right here. And we're going to write them down. We're going to guess to the best of our ability. It looks like it's about -2.5 and +2.5. I'm going to write those in, -2.5 and +2.5. And we're going to write these as ordered pairs. So we're always going to start at the origin, and we went left 2.5, up and down 0. So I want it written as -2.5, 0, and the other one is +2.5, 0. Okay, x-intercepts will always have y values of 0. That will always be true. You're just going to have an x number, and your y values will be 0. With y-intercepts, we should only have one y-intercept each time. If we're talking about functions, it would be impossible to have two y-intercepts, so we'll just call it one y-intercept, and then we're going to find it. It's right here. This is where our graph crosses that vertical axis, and it looks like it's down 1, 2, 3. So as an ordered pair, it's left and right 0, down 3. Okay, so when you're doing your your y-intercepts, you're always going to have an x value of 0. Okay, now positive and negative intervals. Let's start with negative intervals. I like going down to up. So where is our graph negative? So what I'm first going to do is just draw our water line. Here's our water line. I'm going to make that nice and thick. And then we're going to look at where's our graph underwater. Well, right here. This green chunk right here is where we're underwater. And that starts at -2.5 and it ends at +2.5. Okay, now there's some debate about whether if you're on the x-axis, if that's positive or negative or neither. For our situations, we're always just going to we're going to include them. We're going to include where it touches the x-axis in both the positive and the negative, just so that there's no argument. That's just what we'll go with. Okay, so then where are we above water? Well, everywhere from -infinity up until -2.5. So I'm going to start with that one from negative infinity all the way until 2.5. And again, we're going to use our closed bracket. Okay, and then it happens again. So that's not our only spot because we also have a piece of our graph over here that's positive. So when that happens, we're going to use this U sign in between. It's kind of like an and sign. That's just a math. It's called union, if you want to write that down. Okay, and then it happens again from 2.5 until infinity. Now, if you've done this right, you've included the entire domain in your answer. So we went from negative infinity to 2.5, from 2.5 to 2.5, and then from 2.5 up until infinity. So our whole domain is included, all of our x values is included here as either a negative interval or as a positive interval. Let's try the next one here and make sure that we're getting the hang of this. So first thing is our x-intercepts. We have 2 of them. I'm going to go a little bit faster here. We have one at negative 2, 0. And we have another one. And we don't want to use the union sign there because we're not talking about intervals. It's just an and, or write out the word and. So negative 2, 0 and positive 2, 0. And then we have a y-intercept. That's where we hit the y-axis. Remember, that's our vertical line. We hit that at 0, 2. And then where are we below water? Put my water line in. Okay, so this time we have 2 chunks where we're below water. I'll make them green, I guess. Okay, and I always start from the left. So from negative infinity, right, because that's going left ever so slightly forever. Negative infinity all the way up until we hit that x-intercept, which is at negative 2. So from negative infinity all the way up until 2, and then, oops, I'm just going to use closed one. And then it happens again on the right side of our graph where x equals 2 all the way forever. Oh, I missed a negative sign here. So from 2 until forever. Okay, so if you look at that, there's one part of our domain that's missing. We haven't talked about what's between negative 2 and positive 2, and that's because that's the chunk of our graph that's in positive land, above water. So our positive interval is that chunk that's between negative 2 and positive 2. Okay, another example here. I'm doing quite a few of these just because sometimes people struggle with these a little bit. So first thing is our x-intercepts we've been doing first. And on this one, we have 2 x-intercepts. And if you're getting the hang of this and you want to just maybe pause and try them and make sure you're getting them right yourself, you totally can. One of them's at negative 5, 0. And the other one is at negative 1, 0. And then again, just one y-intercept. Looks like it's left and right 0, up 1, so 0, 1. And then we're below water, underground this time, just for the one chunk. So just this little v. So I think that's our easy one. That's our negative interval. And that happens from negative 5 to 1. And then positive. And I think if you're confused anywhere, it's right here. It's with these 2 chunks. So we're positive all the way coming from negative infinity up until negative 5. And then again, this other chunk that starts where x equals negative 1 and goes forever. Now with the positive and negative intervals, we don't care about the y's at all. We only care about Keep forgetting these negatives. We only care about the x values. Make sure you add a negative to the 5 there. I missed that. Okay, only worry about the x values. The only time you care about a y value on these problems is with your y-intercept. Outside of that, you are just focused on this number line right here, and then possibly an infinity and a negative infinity to your left and to your right. All right, and then the last one here, and this one will be easy because when we look for x-intercepts, we have 0. We have none. Our graph never even reaches the x-axis. We have no x-intercepts. We do have a y-intercept, though. We do cross our y-axis right there. So let's write that down. We have a y-intercept at negative 0, negative 5. Left and right 0, but down 5. And then we have absolutely nothing up here in positive land. None. Okay, so we only have the one interval, our negative interval. And that's everything. It's negative forever. It goes left forever. It goes right forever. It's always, always, always going to be below water. So we're going to do it in interval notation from negative infinity to infinity. All right, that is it for that one. So same idea. Practice, mastery check. Let me know if any of that is still confusing, and I'm happy to help you out one-on-one.